Get on your knees now, husband humiliates pregnant wife in front of his friends. Her payback left him in tears. Hey viewers, we are excited to bring another amazing story. Please kindly hit the subscribe button, like this video and also share to your friends and loved ones. Thank you so much. Now let's dive right in. My name is Tiffany, and my world was perfect, or at least I thought it was. I was married to Janine, a man I loved with all my heart. We were expecting our first child, a sweet little girl who would change everything. Life should have been blissful, but somewhere along the way, things went terribly wrong. The morning started like any other. The sun streamed through the kitchen window as I stood over the stove, stirring the pancakes I had promised Janine's friends we'd have ready for breakfast. I was a few months pregnant, and though I loved the baby growing inside me, the morning sickness and exhaustion made it hard to feel cheerful every day. Still, I smiled through it all, hoping the day would be a happy one. Janine had invited some of his old college buddies over for a reunion. It was supposed to be fun, just some good old-fashioned laughs and catching up. But there was always this strange tension in the air when Janine had his friends over. They didn't really understand me. They didn't know what it was like to be carrying a child, dealing with the exhaustion, the morning sickness, and the emotional roller coaster. But I didn't mind. It was his day, and I just wanted him to be happy. I was flipping the pancakes when I heard Janine's voice from the living room, loud and clear. Tiffany, come here. I sighed and wiped my hands on my apron, walking into the living room with a smile plastered on my face. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt something shift in the air. Janine was sitting on the couch, surrounded by his friends, and there was something in his eyes, a coldness that sent a chill down my spine. Can I help you with something? I asked, trying to sound normal, though my heart was beating a little faster. Janine didn't even look up at me at first. His friends, sitting on the couch with their beers, laughed and joked amongst themselves. Janine, however, was focused on something else entirely. I could feel the tension in the room tightening around me. It was as if they were all in on some secret I wasn't privy to. Tiffany, get over here, Janine finally said, his voice sharp. He didn't even look at me as he gave the command. I froze for a moment. The tone of his voice, so commanding and cold, struck me like a bolt of lightning. I could feel my stomach tighten, not from the baby, but from an overwhelming sense of dread. I walked slowly over to where he was sitting, my feet dragging with every step. What's wrong? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Get down on your knees, he said flatly, his eyes finally meeting mine. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. I blinked, my mind racing. What? Why? Don't make me repeat myself, he said, his tone growing impatient. Get on your knees, Tiffany. Show some respect. I looked around at his friends, all of them staring at me with varying degrees of amusement, curiosity, and something else that I couldn't quite put my finger on. My heart was pounding in my chest as I tried to process what was happening. You're joking, right? I asked, trying to laugh it off. But the laughter died in my throat when I saw the serious expression on Janine's face. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a playful command. This was real, and it hurt more than I ever imagined it would. Get on your knees, Janine repeated, his voice much colder now, as if he was daring me to disobey. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of him. Not in front of them. I opened my mouth to speak, to protest, but the words wouldn't come out. I could feel every pair of eyes on me, judging me, waiting for me to do something. Anything. I wanted to scream. I wanted to walk out of that room and never look back. But I was pregnant, exhausted, and emotionally drained. And in that moment, I felt so small, so insignificant. All my strength drained away. Slowly, I sank to my knees. I could hear Janine's friends chuckling in the background, a few of them even making comments under their breath, too quiet for me to hear clearly. But I didn't need to hear them. I could feel their judgment, their mockery, burning into my skin. Janine looked at me with a strange, empty expression, as if this was all just some game. And I hated him for it. I hated him for making me feel this way. But what hurt the most was that I hated myself for letting him. After what felt like an eternity, Janine waved his hand dismissively. You can get up now, he said, his tone casual as if nothing had happened. I stood slowly, my knees aching, my heart heavy. I wiped my eyes quickly, but the tears kept coming. I felt like a fool, humiliated in front of everyone. But I was determined not to let them see how much it hurt. I wasn't going to let Janine win. I turned away from him, taking a deep breath as I tried to compose myself. I wasn't sure how I was going to face him again, or if I even wanted to. But I knew one thing for sure, this was the moment that changed everything. I would never be the same again. The next few days passed in a blur. I walked around the house in a daze, trying to keep up with the usual routines, but it felt like everything had shifted overnight. I had always believed that love and respect went hand in hand, that one couldn't exist without the other. But Janine's actions had shaken that belief to its core. It wasn't just that he humiliated me in front of his friends, it was the indifference in his eyes, the coldness in his voice. I couldn't stop thinking about that moment. I tried to brush it off, to act like everything was normal, but I couldn't. Every time I looked at him, I saw the men who had stripped me of my dignity. I had to do something. I had to find my strength again. On the third day after that awful incident, Janine and I were sitting at the kitchen table. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. I hadn't said a word to him since that night, and he hadn't apologized. There was no mention of what had happened. It was as if he expected me to just forget about it and move on. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. Tiffany, Janine said, breaking the silence. His voice was soft, almost apologetic, but I wasn't fooled. I had heard that tone before, it was the same tone he used when he wanted to manipulate me. I looked up at him, my arms crossed over my chest. What do you want? I just wanted to talk, he said, looking down at his hands. He didn't meet my eyes. I know things have been tense lately. Tense? I echoed, my voice shaking with disbelief. You think things are tense after what you did to me? He flinched, and for a second, I thought I saw a glimpse of regret in his eyes. But it disappeared as quickly as it came. I didn't mean it the way you think, he said, his voice low. It was just a joke, Tiffany. You know how I am with my friends. It wasn't meant to hurt you. I laughed bitterly, the sound harsh in the quiet room. A joke? Humiliating me in front of your friends is a joke? I'm your wife, Janine. I deserve better than that. Janine's expression hardened. I said I was sorry, he snapped, standing up abruptly. What more do you want from me? I stood up too, my body trembling with anger. I want respect, Janine. I want you to treat me like a partner, not a joke. I want you to care about me, not just your stupid friends. He glared at me, his jaw clenched. You're overreacting. You're pregnant, you're emotional. I didn't mean anything by it. Stop making excuses for yourself, I said, my voice rising. You don't get to use my pregnancy as an excuse for your behavior. I've been nothing but supportive, Janine. I've stood by you through everything, and this is how you repay me? He didn't say anything for a long time, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. But then, like a switch flipping, his face hardened, and his eyes narrowed. You think you're the only one going through something? You think I don't have my own struggles, my own problems? Maybe I didn't handle things well, but I'm doing the best I can. Doing the best you can? I whispered, feeling the weight of his words. Is that what you call this? Humiliating me? Pushing me away? That's your best? For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air was thick with tension, but I wasn't going to back down this time. I wasn't going to let him walk all over me anymore. You don't get it, do you? I said softly, taking a step back. This isn't just about one stupid incident. This is about a pattern of disrespect. This is about you taking me for granted. And I'm done, Janine. I can't keep doing this. I deserve more than this. Janine's eyes widened, and for a second, I thought he might say something, apologize, maybe even beg for my forgiveness. But instead, he looked away, running his hand through his hair in frustration. You're being dramatic, Tiffany, he muttered under his breath, as if dismissing everything I had said. I'm not going to stand here and listen to you accuse me of things I didn't do. I felt my heart break a little more. It wasn't just the words he said, it was the way he said them. Cold, detached, and full of self-righteousness. It was clear now that he wasn't the man I thought he was. The man I had married was a stranger, someone who only cared about his own ego and pride. But then, in the silence that followed, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg him to see the truth. I wasn't going to let him make me feel small anymore. You know what? I said, my voice steady, even though my heart was racing. I'm leaving. Janine looked at me in shock, his eyes widening. What? You can't be serious. I'm serious, I said, nodding slowly. I'm done, Janine. I'm done pretending everything is okay when it's not. I'm done being treated like I don't matter. I'm leaving, and I'm going to find a way to be happy again. Without you. Janine's face turned pale, his mouth opening and closing as if he didn't know what to say. For the first time in days, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes, and it made me realize something. He was scared. Not of losing me, but of losing control. And that scared me even more. I'm not asking for your permission, Janine, I said, turning toward the door. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm just leaving. As I walked out of the kitchen, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, but it was bittersweet. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing, I would never let anyone, especially Janine, treat me this way again. The days after I left Janine were the hardest I'd ever faced. But they were also the most liberating. I moved into a small apartment in the city, far from the house I had shared with Janine. The apartment was modest, barely enough space for me and the little life growing inside me, but it felt like freedom. It felt like I could breathe again. At first, I didn't know where to begin. I spent the first few days in a fog, unsure of what to do or where to turn. But as the days passed, I began to feel something shift inside me. It wasn't just relief or freedom, it was determination. I was done being silent. I was done hiding my pain. I was done being someone's doormat. It was time to take control of my life. I started reaching out to my friends, the ones I had lost touch with when I had been so caught up in my marriage. They welcomed me back with open arms, offering support, love, and encouragement. It was during one of these late-night conversations with my best friend, Ashley, that I had my first real breakthrough. You know, Tiffany, Ashley said as we sat on the couch, drinking tea. You've been through so much. And I know it's not easy, but you can't let Janine's actions define you. You're stronger than that. I looked at her, tears welling up in my eyes. I don't know, Ash. It feels like I'm never going to escape the hurt. It's like I'm stuck in this cycle of pain and humiliation. Ashley took my hand gently, squeezing it. But you're not stuck, Tiffany. You've already taken the hardest step, leaving. You've broken free. And now it's time to show the world who you really are. You're not just a victim. You're a survivor. And you've got a lot to offer. A lot of people could learn from you. I stared at her, her words sinking in like a heavy weight. You think I could help someone else? I know you can, Ashley said with confidence. You've been through hell and come out the other side. Now, you've got this wisdom, this strength that could help so many people who feel the same way you did. You could be the voice for women who are too scared to speak up. A spark of hope flickered inside me. It was the first time in a long while that I felt like I had a purpose beyond just surviving. Maybe I could help others. Maybe I could be a voice for the voiceless. The idea scared me at first, but then I realized something. If I could stand up for myself, I could help others do the same. I could teach them that they didn't have to take the abuse. They didn't have to stay in toxic relationships. There was a way out. The next day, I did something I never thought I would do. I started a blog. I poured my heart out in the first post, sharing my story of what had happened with Janine. I told the world about the humiliation, the pain, the anger. But I also told them about the decision I made to leave, to take control of my life. I wanted others to know they weren't alone. The post went live late at night, and I didn't expect much from it. But when I woke up the next morning, I saw a flood of comments. Messages of support, encouragement, and gratitude poured in. Women from all over the world shared their own stories with me, telling me how my words had inspired them to stand up for themselves. One comment stood out among the rest. It was from a woman named Rachel, and her message was short but powerful. Thank you, Tiffany. I've been in an abusive relationship for years. I've been too scared to leave. But after reading your story, I feel like I can finally break free. I'm leaving him today. I sat there in shock, staring at the screen. My heart swelled with pride and sadness all at once. Rachel's words made everything worth it. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about all the women who had been too afraid to speak up, too afraid to ask for help. It was about showing them that they didn't have to endure pain in silence. The next few weeks flew by. I dedicated myself to the blog, writing about topics ranging from self-love and healing to how to recognize toxic relationships and, most importantly, how to escape them. The more I wrote, the more I realized that my story was only the beginning. There were so many people out there who needed support, who needed someone to tell them that they weren't weak for wanting more, for wanting to be treated with respect. And as I gained more followers, I realized something else. I had found my purpose. I wasn't just a survivor. I was a warrior. I wasn't just telling my story, I was empowering others to find their own voice. But not everyone was supportive of what I was doing. Janine, of course, found out about the blog. He had been lurking around my social media, sending me passive-aggressive messages, trying to guilt-trip me into coming back. But I wasn't going to fall for it. I wasn't going to let him back into my life. One day, as I was getting ready to go to work, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment but answered anyway. "Tiffany," a voice on the other end said. "It's Janine." I felt a chill run down my spine, but I forced myself to stay calm. "What do you want?" "I saw your blog," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You really think you can just throw me under the bus like this? You think you can embarrass me in front of everyone and get away with it?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "You don't get to tell me what I can or can't do anymore, Janine. I'm not the person I was when I was with you. And you need to understand that." There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and when Janine finally spoke again, his voice was colder than ever. "You'll regret this, Tiffany," he said. "You'll see. You can't escape your past." "I'm not trying to escape it," I replied firmly. "I'm trying to live a better life. And I'm going to help others do the same." With that, I hung up the phone, feeling stronger than I had ever felt before. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. I wasn't afraid of anything anymore.